Okay, in today's draping tutorial video, we are going to be creating the tunic that's seen in the statue known as Diana of Versailles. We're going to be using the Draping Complete course to get us through this, and this just goes through and shows you exactly what the steps are that we're going to take to achieve our look. So let's get started. So as always, we want to make sure we collect our materials. Here is our ruler, our grid ruler. We always have to use a handy pair of scissors. The twill tape here is optional. You can use it if you have it, but I don't think it's essential for this assignment. Then we have our magnetic pin holder, which is always very, very handy. It helps pick up those pins and some pins as well. Elastic for this, I'm going to use this smaller 1/4 inch piece. You should definitely use a 1-inch piece for the full scale. Now I do have the complete tutorial to this assignment. If you go to my Etsy shop, you can buy the complete tutorial, and it's basically this video, but it's also broken down into just step by step with a picture so you can use them together. That video also will give you the exact measurements for this exercise. So here we have 4 pieces that are going to be needed. This is going to be the waist area. This is also going to be that shoulder strap area, and again the tutorial PDF, it gives you exact measurements for all of these. And this is going to be our front piece. I have it labeled here, and then we're going to also have our back piece, which is this last piece here. And this is all the things you need so we can get started with our project. So I have my half-scale dress form that I use to demonstrate these pieces. You're definitely going to use a full-scale dress form if you have it. Okay, so I'm always going to make sure I line up my center front with the center front line of the dress form, and I'm just going to anchor those down with pins. What we do to the front, we always do to the back. We're going to make sure our lines are all matched up nicely, and then we just take and do the same thing to the back. So we're going to get our muslin and just drape it over the back and do the same thing that we did to the front, making sure that center back line of our muslin is lined up with the center back line of the actual dress form. Now here we just want to go in and take the sides and just pin them together. We're not going to do any folding or anything just yet. We're just going to go along the sides and just pin them together. And you want to make sure that whatever you do to one side of the garment, you repeat on the other side. So that's what that looks like. And you just take those same instructions over to the other side of the dress. Once that's done, you're going to take your pencil and you're going to mark that in about 1 inch. I'm just eyeballing it here, but you can go ahead and use an actual ruler and just mark that straight down about 1 inch to both sides. Once we have both sides labeled, now it's time for us to go in and fold them on top of each other. So you see I have the 1 inch marking here and the 1 inch marking on my front panel, and I'm just going to fold those sides over using my pins. So we're just finishing up this last bit, and that's what it should look like, straight down the sides. So now we're just going to go back in and create our armhole. So what I do is I go in and I remove 1 or 2 pins from the middle area so that I can create an opening for the armholes, and just pin those sides back so that they stay in place. So we're going to take out our elastic and begin to tie it around the waist of our dress. And we're just going to fasten the ends by tying them. That snapped a couple of times for me. Hopefully you don't have the same problem. But once you do get it, you're just going to tie them at the ends. We're good to go. So this is what it looks like when you've kind of been able to go in and just like fluff everything out, because that's kind of what I had to do. I had to go in and just like smooth everything out so it looked nice, neat, and even. So that's what you'll have to go and do to your piece, just smooth all the pieces out, and also just take some of these pins away so we can start messing around with the actual drape. Now we're going to take our pin and anchor down the top area, because we're going to have to start pulling it over the elastic, and the best way that works is if the top is anchored down. So you're just going to go in and just pull the top of the fabric over so we create that nice fold. And here we go. This is the end result of that. Now we're going to go in for a close-up of the top area. So this is just the top area of the dress. What you want to go in and do is sort of like fold that down. So on yours it's going to be probably about an inch. You're going to fold that down and just make sure that you're keeping the center front seam aligned with the center front seam of the dress form. And you're just going to go and put some pins so that everything stays folded down. And you're going to do the same thing for the back. Now we're going to go and start to really make some space for our armholes, and you're just going to pull that over to the top, as you can see here, because it's also going to create that cowl effect that we're looking for. So we're just going to take those openings and just put them on our shoulders. Now what are we talking about as far as measurements? I would say on your measurements it should be about a 1 inch right near that line that you see on the dress form, not on it, but maybe just like a ½ inch away from it. So not directly on it, because it's not supposed to be directly on the shoulders, just kind of sloping away a little bit. So that's where you want to put your pins and just secure it again here so that doesn't come apart as we're doing it. These last few parts are just going to be about a lot of trial and error and just really sort of feeling out what the design is supposed to be. That's kind of the great thing about draping. It's just a lot of like unpinning, repinning, and kind of repositioning. So here I'm just kind of stretching the waist band out a little bit just so it all automatically comes in on some pleats. Again, I'm going to have to go in and really define those pleats, but I just wanted to go in rather than just laying it flat and then manipulating it. I'm just going to go in with it kind of stretched so that it already gives you like a pre-pleat. So once I'm done, I just basically take some pins and just put things into place as I'm beginning to manipulate the fabric to get it to do what I want it to do. So I'm still messing with it, folding it down, but you do begin to see the waistband start to take shape and it start to look a little bit more like how we want it to look. So here I'm going to just go in and pin these into place for my back area, making sure that I don't lose any of the folded details, any of the pleats as I'm doing this. So making sure that those pleats stay together and just pinning it down directly on the dress form. So with this back view, I just went with a pencil and just marked down the center back. And then I'm just going to reinforce it by putting my pins in place so that when I do take it off of the dress form, like it doesn't go back to its original shape, that it takes shape, it keeps shape. And when you're removing this from the actual dress form, it's very important that you do that, that you make sure you're just removing the pins, but also placing them back with additional markings to make sure that everything stays in place. Otherwise, it just returns to like marked pieces of fabric that don't have any shape. Once I have those marks, I just go in and fold it over like it would be like a normal belt. And I just go in and fold those pieces over and again, just pin them together on the actual dress form. So now we're going to go in and finish out our design. So I'm taking the sash piece and I'm doing the same thing that I did with the waist belt. I'm just going to go in and just like pull that a little bit so it has this sort of pre-gathered pre-pinned together look, and I'm just going to drape it across the shoulder. There's going to be some fabric manipulation going on just so that we can ensure that the sash has that drape gathered Grecian goddess look that we're going for. So just like I said, with draping, just a lot of fabric manipulation and just messing around with it until it gives you the drape you want. I will say that for the full scale, it does give you a lot more body. When you're working with a smaller dress form, the fabric doesn't have as much weight because it's just shorter and smaller. So I will say for your design, I anticipate there'll be a lot more heavily draped and just have a lot like softer flow than my design, which is a little bit slightly stiffer only because there's just not as much fabric being used. Now you want to pull that right underneath the waistband and then go in and just start smoothing everything out again and adjusting the waist as well as adjusting the sash as you go. So now we're preparing to remove the dress from the dress form. I go in and I true up all these areas right where the elastic is. I want to true. I also want to true where the waistband is, and pretty much any place where the seams are connecting, where there's pins, where there's particular folds. You want to make sure and you true those up so that when you remove this from the dress form that it still retains its shape. Now you're saying, okay, I've got the drape, now what do I do? Well, I would say this is mainly a draping course. If you wanted to actualize this in actual fabric, I'd recommend a knit. If you're fairly new to draping, I would definitely go with a knit fabric. It has a nice flow. It's more acceptable to a drape. And I think for this particular design, because it doesn't have any visible zippers or openings, I think it would take it a lot better. Okay, so we're seeing some of the last images of the design completed. I would pull in the waist a little bit more for mine, but how do we do? What did you enjoy most about this project? Let me know in the comments. Thank you for watching. Please make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Until next time, make like a lady.